The long game romance scam. How trust is engineered before money is taken. First, the misunderstanding. Common perception imagines romance scams as obvious, with bad grammar, strange photos, and immediate requests for money. But that image is outdated. Modern romance scams don't begin with desperation. Now, they don't appear as scams. They look like routine human connection. They begin with patience. A message that feels ordinary. A conversation that unfolds slowly. Someone who listens more than they talk. No urgency. No pressure. No financial angle. That's not a flaw in the scam. That is by design. Why the wait matters. In documented long-game romance scams, the first phase can last months, sometimes a year. In one case, the first 2 months contained nothing unusual at all. No romantic declarations, no dramatic stories, no requests of any kind. Just conversation. By month 3, a routine formed with daily check-ins, shared humor, and emotional availability. So by month 6, the connection felt established. The kind of relationship that feels stable simply because it has lasted. And still no money was mentioned. This waiting period serves a critical psychological function. It lowers suspicion not through persuasion, but through normalcy. People don't guard against what feels familiar. Distance is not a problem. Nearly every long-game romance scam includes distance, and that distance never resolves. The reason is simple. Distance prevents verification. The stories vary, but the situational pattern is consistent. Involvements with international work, military deployment, or some humanitarian mission are a typical premise. In one real case, the scammer maintained contact across multiple time zones, which made delayed replies feel reasonable. Video calls were rare but plausible. Technical issues were always believable. Each explanation on its own made sense. Together, they formed a permanent barrier. Distance wasn't an obstacle to the relationship. For the scammer, it was the infrastructure that supported the lie. The first ask is emotional, not financial. When money finally enters the story, it rarely arrives as a request. Instead, it appears as a problem. A payment delayed overseas, an account temporarily frozen, a bureaucratic issue that feels humiliating to talk about. The scammer doesn't ask for help. They express frustration, embarrassment, stress, and this is the most important moment in the entire scam. Because in many cases, the victim offers help on their own. That offer feels voluntary and compassionate. It feels like something you do for someone you care about. From the victim's perspective, this wasn't manipulation. It was support. But, from the scammer's perspective, it's finally payday. Crypto romance scams. When love becomes opportunity. Not all romance scams move toward crises. Some move toward opportunity. This is where crypto romance scams, often referred to as pig buttering, come into play. In these cases, the relationship may last months before finances are mentioned at all. Then, casually, success is introduced. Not a pitch or a demand. Just a story about a new investment strategy. A platform that's been working well. Screenshots showing steady returns. The first investment is intentionally small. The returns appear quickly. Withdrawals are allowed once. That single successful withdrawal is not proof. It is the conditioning to train trust. Over time, after larger sums are invested, then, suddenly, the rules change. Withdrawals now require fees, taxes, verification payments. Each step is framed as the final hurdle. In reality, no investment ever existed. The platform was a simulation. The numbers were fiction. How doubt is neutralized. When doubt emerges, it is never addressed directly. Instead, watch how it is personalized. Questions are reframed as betrayal. Do you not trust me? After everything we've been through? This was supposed to be our future. These statements don't provide evidence. They apply emotional pressure, and because the relationship felt real, the pressure works. Victims aren't manipulated because they're foolish. They're manipulated because they're emotionally invested. The military romance scam follows the same blueprint. In one case, the connection began on social media. Photos appeared legitimate. Stories aligned with real deployment patterns. By month 4, leave was approaching. Then paperwork issues appeared, processing fees, emergency expenses. However, logic arrives late when trust arrives early. Reality check: active military personnel do not pay processing fees for leave. The widowed professional scam moves more carefully. In this case, that lasted nearly 10 months. Bonding occurred over shared loss. The scammer avoided rushing, avoided money talk, built credibility through restraint. Then business complications surfaced. Locked in probate, legal delays, and every solution required secrecy. And of course, every delay requires money. The emergency pivot. Some scams escalate suddenly. Months of normal conversation are followed by a crisis, and a sudden accident, or a hospitalization, perhaps an arrest overseas. Payment methods are limited. Time is short. Emotions are high. Victims act not because they're reckless, but because the situation feels human. The urgency replaces analysis. And that is the intended outcome. The pattern is the product. Different stories with the same architecture. Trust is built before money is mentioned. Distance prevents verification. Emotion replaces urgency. Isolation prevents outside perspective. Romance scams don't feel like crimes. Instead, they feel like relationships that slowly collapse. That's why victims often blame themselves. And it is that shame which keeps the cycle going. Counter strategy. Real relationships tolerate derification. They don't punish questions. They don't avoid live interaction indefinitely. They don't tie love to financial risk. And real help does not arrive uninvited or require secrecy. And it does not demand upfront fees. If any of this feels familiar, you are not alone. And you are not too late to stop. Real help doesn't find you. You find it through systems that can prove who they are.